All right, tonight we're going to have a brief discussion about raising wood ducks. There's a lot of misinformation that's all over the internet about raising wood ducks, ranging from, they can't be raised in captivity because they die, to they can't be fed chick starter, just a whole medicated foods. Which we do try to avoid, but most medicated foods are not necessarily harmful. Most medication nowadays is actually antiperillum, which is coccidiostat, which is not necessarily toxic to ducks, ducklings or full-grown ducks. That's just a myth from way back many years ago. To get started, we raise our wood ducks. We hatch our wood ducks either in an incubator or under hens or under the mother duck. There's two methods of brooding. One is dry brooding, and it's basically, we're going to come over this common shell duck brooder. It's a little bit dirty here, but basically you don't have a swimming area for the birds. You have a water or something like that, and you put the birds in here. The problem and then we have another type of brooding system called the wet brooding system, and that's what we raise our wood ducks on primarily, exclusively I should say. Getting back to the dry brooding, you can dry brood wood ducks, but it's very difficult, and you'll probably lose a lot of wood ducks if you dry brood. With that said, I will say I dry brooded them for years and years, and I had very little problems with it, but then one year I started having problems with them, and I had problems until we went right back to wet brooding. So, in the protocol of many zoos over in Europe, and there's a lot of old-timers in the United States that raise wood ducks, and I always did it too, especially when I was dry brooding, but we've gotten out of that practice now we're wet brooding, was to take the wood ducks. And I'm just going to, over this brooder, you would take them and you drop them. And they just run off. And the idea is that it stimulates them to start eating. But again, we don't do that anymore. But getting back to what I just said, I would probably suggest it if you're dry brooding, because that is one of the methods. It's probably anecdotal, but we always did it. So the brooders we use are Leucopsis brooders. They're fiberglass brooder. They're actually really easy to keep clean. And as you just saw with the shell duck brooder there, we replaced one side with grates, and we have two sides with grates on them, and we use them as a dry brooder. And then with the wet brooding, we fill one side with water here. And then we have grates. It's got drains on both sides. We can just hose it, clean it, keep it nice and clean. The Leucopsis brooders have a rough side for the pond, so ducklings can actually get their claws in there and pull themselves up, especially wood ducks and mandarins and stuff. Wood ducks and mandarins, incidentally, can climb the sides of dirty. I haven't seen them climb the sides of this fiberglass yet, but they can actually, I've seen them climb the sides of dirty aquariums and so on. So this is what we brood these in. We do put these mats in here just to come, so the ducklings can easily get in and out of the water, especially if we're raising other species other than the wood ducks. So pretty much what we do here is, well, we got another brooder over here. We have this chick starter, which is, we use 18%. As a general rule, let me put this stuff in this other brooder here. As a general rule, we start off on 18%, and then within 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, we'll start switching them to pelleted food, layer pellets. at about 16%. So we'll start these off, and what we'll do with these brooders here, and you don't have to use a Leucopsis brooder, we just prefer it. Gives you uniformity. They're a little bit expensive, but they're definitely pay themselves. Huge. The return on investment is huge. So what we'll do often is we'll take some. This is hard-boiled egg. We'll grind it up. We'll just toss it in the feed. Sometimes a little along the edge or something like that. And we'll take some mealworms. We try to use the small mealworms, and this has got some. So we just sprinkle it in the feed, and maybe a little bit on the. This is going to crawl away on me out. It's just going to be a waste of mealworm if we have them in the. So they'll see the mealworms. In fact, they're probably waiting for me to step away from the brooder. They'll eat, they'll see the mealworms moving around, and they'll start pecking and eating. And like I said, the water somehow stimulates them to start eating. We use these bulbs here. They're about a foot off the ground, off the brooder. These are infrared bulbs. They burn really hot. The nice thing about them is they got a low setting and a high setting. They last a lot longer than conventional bulbs. So the other thing, getting back briefly on these dry brooder systems, if you don't have access to a wet brooder, another thing that you could do is you could set up a water system to the brooder. If you have a dry brooder that you can put a drain in or something, and you can trickle the water into like a little dish, and the moving water and the ducklings will be attracted to moving water, and they'll also be able to just get in it a little bit. You can use a paint pan, I suppose, as well. But there's something about moving water or having water accessible in addition to the live feed. One of the interesting things is, I'm going to catch one of these birds here. Well, and add it. Okay, I have got, and this has always kind of intrigued me, and this one's a little bit bigger because it's a couple days older. This is a Mandarin, and then down below is a wood duck. You can see these like two eye stripes on the Mandarin above, and then the wood duck is more or less one eye stripe. But if you also look at it, you can see it's got like the wood duck's always got like a darker head on it. So this is the difference between, this is a Mandarin and a wood duck. They also have like a yellowish tinge to their face. They're closely related species, but the interesting thing is with the Mandarins, you don't need to wet brood them. You don't need to really put mealworms in with them. You just kind of put them in the brooder and they start. So after about a week or two, after about 2 weeks, depending on the weather and stuff, we move these things to the outdoor brooder, which is kind of like a rabbit hutch with a little watering dish in them, like a masonry tub, so they can get in and swim. And it's got heat, and they stay in that for about a week, and then they get transferred out to a secondary holding pen, which has heat in it, and they have access to ponds. And after they stay in there for a week, they go right into the main pens. And